Thanks for joining us. You're watching Notepad. I'm your host, Ibrahim Sani. Today we shall talk a little bit about the capital markets, in specific BPAM, or the Bond Pricing Agency Malaysia. Very recently, BPAM launched their first ESG Bond Index series, ESG being the Environmental, Social and Governance series. This is in coordination or in accordance with the SRI Sukuk framework, or the Sustainable Responsible Investment framework issued by Securities Commission. So joining me is BPAM CEO Meor Amri Meor. Let's talk a little bit about the whole notion of why BPAM introduced the ESG Index series.
Okay. Maybe if you don't mind me, I just want to correct. It's not only with the SC's SRI framework, but it also includes four other frameworks. One is the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals.
Yeah.
The other three is ASEAN, the ASEAN Green Bond Standards, and the ASEAN Sustainability Bond Standard, and the ASEAN Social Bond Standard. So
it seems that there's a lot of frameworks
there's a lot of framework
have to adhere to. Does this incur some form of encumbrance?
Well, from the perspective of the issuer, if they want themselves to be considered as part of the ESG community, they can actually go under any of these five standards.
Standards.
Now, the SC framework is the one that is actually under the purview of SC. The United Nations is purely voluntary.
Yeah.
The ASEAN is also purely voluntary.
Yeah.
All right. So you can have a situation in the Malaysian bond market whereby you have a particular bond that is under the SRI framework, and you have one that is not under SRI, but is also qualified as an ESG. So this is where we have our team of specialists. They will actually go through the term sheet, all the documentation, the press releases, the rationale and all that, and identify whether or not they fulfill any of the others. If they do, we will then tag them as an ESG.
Sorry, I have to ask a very basic question.
Yeah.
What is the allure of being on this index? Why ESG?
Okay, if you talk about a class or family of indices. So this is the new kid on the block. Now, globally for the last 10 years or so, there is this big push towards looking at things more socially responsible in terms of investing, in terms of issuing, in terms of doing all kinds of stuff. And green bonds is one of the things that has been promoted as far as the Malaysian regulators is concerned. So in 2014, that's when NC came out with the SRI framework. That's 2014. In fact, if you look at the whole framework of things, Malaysia came out in 2014. United Nations, the Sustainable Goals, only came out in 2015. So it went after us. We came out first. And then the ASEAN came out in 2017 and 2018. Right? So we came out with something quite early on. So everybody is now going into the bandwagon.
We're still being accused of not being environmentally friendly, particularly the palm oil sector, many other sectors, oil and gas. So what's the point of having all these structures if people still accuse us of not being environmentally sustainable?
Well, I guess those people are looking at it wrongly, as far as I'm concerned. Those factors that you brought out, the palm oil, they're the palm oil. So I don't think by having an ESG bond, you will start to eliminate issuers of this kind of thing, because these are, as I said, that's why they are a different class of. So you have a class of issuers that are in this area, which you mentioned just now, and you have also new sets of classification of investors. And this is where I think for investors who are keen to look at things differently. For example, one of the primary things that people always look when it comes to bond investment or even any investment whatsoever is the profit motivation. They call it the profit maximization rule, as they say.
Yeah.
I will only invest something where it can that it can be proven that it generates the most profit for me. For example,
is ESG part of the?
But ESG is different because profit maximization is not the primary issue, because it's more on the social. It's more on, okay, I would like to invest. I want to issue bonds to build school in somewhere underdeveloped, for example. What is the returns that you expect? If you go under the original profit maximization rule, definitely fails, right? But you also do not want to have an issue of bond whereby the returns are negative.
Of course.
Okay, so So you have instances whereby some investors will go and identify some of these ESG bonds because they say, yeah, I use the word love. I love to invest in it because what? It's doing something different. It's changing the whole environment. It's changing the whole things of how we focus on education. We focus on how we develop new energy sources. You know, those kinds of things. So, in fact, now you have all these EV, electric vehicles.
Yeah, of course.
Right? There's a big push now to actually have this sort of technology all over the world. China is one of the biggest users now, and I think technology is likely to come. So I suspect even Malaysia also soon will have that kind of
Does
focus,
the ESG bond index that is being run by BPAM, are there any peers around? Because in Malaysia you're the first, so there's no peer in Malaysia.
Okay.
But overall,
yeah, globally, yes, you do have ESG index series outside done by, but it would be non-ringgit, right? But in Malaysia, if you look at
but again, I just want to highlight this is a ringgit.
Yes, it's a ringgit denominated.
Yeah.
So only in Malaysia, issued in Malaysia and in ringgit, right? But if you talk about ringgit as well, you look at a different set of asset class. You have the Pusi Bursa for good.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's equity. So that's also out. So we specialize in bond.
Fixed income.
Fixed income. Yes, this is it. But it's good because you already have already have equity. Now you have bonds.
So the capital market is covered.
Capital market is covered. So if you are an investor who's keen to look at something different, you now have the opportunity to look and compare and contrast. So because the purpose of an index is for comparison, for benchmarking, right? And also to identify who are the component members of those indices. So you can say, these guys or this issuer, all right, they are in this group. I'm willing to actually, and then start to look and focus. So it's more of it's also a PR for the issuers as well, because they themselves get highlighted.
What is the appetite amongst issuers in subscribing to such index? Are they now coming in droves? Are they kicking everybody because they want to get through the door, or they're like,
no? Well, as far as index is concerned, it is a information. I call it an information platform whereby you can actually identify the constituent members, the performance, and then you can do that to compare with all the rest. So from that perspective, currently now everybody looking at purely as an informational. I use the word platform, information platform, whereby they look at it, they can then identify they can look at the constituent members, the returns, and so on and so forth. So now, what happens is that all of this requires them to slowly identifying themselves that yes, this is a good index, this is a good benchmark.
Yeah.
So it's difficult to say that yes, this is a product, this is a service, subscribe now, use it now. No. Sometimes you have to get them to voluntarily say that yes, I think I can
you
look.
share some of the subscribers to this index?
No, we haven't at the moment now. Everybody can look at it. There's no subscribe. So it's freely available. You can go to our website and you can actually look at it.
Bond stream as well, right?
Yes, in Bond stream as well, and our website as well. So you can actually go there and you can actually start looking at them at the performance, day by day. So that's actually available.
We have to take a break. We'll come back very shortly after these messages. But when we come back, we'll talk a little bit about the issues themselves, predominantly the government of Malaysia. Don't go anywhere. Thanks for staying on with us. You're watching Notepad. I'm your host, Ibrahim Sani. We're talking with the Bond Pricing Agency of Malaysia on their first ESG Suku and Bond Index. And Meor is the CEO of BPAM joining us. Do you call it BPAM or BPAM? What's the slang here?
Well, Originally, when we it's called BPAM, but
Everybody's
but
knows
I know
about
what BPAM is.
The thing about this index is that it's ringgit denominated, therefore it's locally issued. And the problem with this is that, I don't know whether it's a problem. The situation is that the government of Malaysia forms the bulk of ringgit issuers for bond and sukuk. And we're talking sizable here. We're talking about what, 70% of the market value here?
Not about 60, about there,
Yeah, about that. Let's say two-thirds of the whole pie is from government of Malaysia. And the rest, only then we're talking about corporate issuers. What's the story within this index? When we talk about issuers here in Malaysia, does it mean that there is no appeal for corporates to issue ringgit-denominated bond and sukuk, and we have to rely on the government? And how is this index going to improve on that view?
Okay. Generally, if the government of Malaysia were to issue bonds, the normal Malaysian government securities or the GII, which is the Islamic equivalent, they're not classified under any of these standards. Okay, so they're not in this index. Okay, so the bulk of the constituent members of this ESG BPAM ESG index is actually corporates, normal corporates, commercial entities issuing, a lot of them solar powered. So the question is, if you can't see the growth of the Malaysian government's bonds in this index. You can't. So it's actually two separate issues. So if you come, the question is, well, government of Malaysia issuing bonds? Yes, I think from start of this year 2019 until now, I think if some stats that I have, I think it was 719 billion as at end of 2018, and as at end of June 2019 is already gone up to 769.8 billion. So you're looking at within 6 months the growth has gone up by 7%. Now, if you look at the growth of the overall Malaysian bond and sukuk market for the same time period, is 1,492 billion outstanding as at end June, and the growth from December until June is 6%. So the numbers itself shows that the bulk of the growth is actually being taken up by the government issuance. So yes, government is issuing a lot, but sometimes it's also hard to find out why is this so, because issuing bonds is all based on needs. Now, if you say why corporates are not issuing now, maybe the likelihood is that at the moment now they don't see a need to issue capital, right? So until and unless they see a need to issue capital, then you will start to see those kinds of growth rates.
Then the natural question would be, why is there a situation when the corporates are seeing that there is no need to raise capital right now?
Okay. Now, this is I call this is the $1 billion question, because
one aja. Could be $10 billion question. Yeah.
Right. It depends. Certain industries, they may have already an overcapacity.
Okay.
So they may not necessarily need to issue. Certain industry may think of, yes, they have reached a stage of their business growth whereby they say, no, I think it's already stabilized, I think we will remain as is, right? So, and also those who are saying that, okay, I need to take a back seat now, look at what is the potential as far as the economy is going for the next 1 or 2 years before I can make an investment.
Macro considerations are also there.
Of course. It's all the things are all intertwined into whether or not the people want to issue bonds to raise capital.
Is this issue of succession of premiership part of the consideration as well?
Well, it's very hard. I'm not an economist, so I can't say. So but
you speak to a lot of people. I'm sure you rub shoulders with some of the corporate captains. I'm sure they share something with you.
Well, let's put it this way. If you look at economy as it stands, politics, foreign exchange, international trade, all of these have a direct impact on what's happening in terms of Malaysian capital market. So it does. So we are in a sense global. We're not saying that we are insulated, shielded from whatever's happening. It's not. So everything gets affected, right? So yes, all those things, whatever uncertainty issues crops up, investors will take note. So you brought out about this issue about the premiership. Brexit. You look at the China-US issue. All of these are, in fact, like on the 7th, which is the day before yesterday, right? New Zealand, India, what else? Thailand, all reduced their interbank rates, right? Thailand dropped by 25 basis points. The central bank, central bank.
Yeah.
New Zealand by 50 basis points. India by 35 basis points. That was 2 days ago, right?
All this comes on the back of the Fed reducing by 25 basis points
Yes,
a few days back.
But yeah, so all of them have to sort of readjust. Now, we did our readjustment back in May. Okay, that we dropped from 25 basis points to now is at 3, right? So, but how would that impact the bond market? Now, usually when interest rate gets lower, bond market will bounce. So then it's actually very bullish now. But what's going to happen, whether or not our central bank, Bank Negara, will decide after looking at what's happening now that they may have to consider adjusting again. I am not sure. But everybody else in this region, we talk about Thailand is the closest, right? They have adjusted. Right? So we have to wait and see. Because it depends, yeah.
So are you, I don't know, hinting that Bank Negara might want to look at rate cuts maybe September?
I'm not hinting. I'm just stating the fact that this is what's happening now, right? We have done it in May. Either we have been preempting, right, or design. So this is because from a data point of view, I don't have the data to say whether we are being preempt or we are. So we can't say reacting. So we're not sure, right? But this is the situation. We did it in May. These other 3 countries did it 2 days ago, right? So there was 2 months difference in it. So we have to see. We have to see going forward what is going to happen. But again, all that will be based on what's happening. Brexit is October. 1st of October, Brexit will come into the picture.
And the likelihood of a no-deal Brexit is extremely
high. Yeah, it's extremely high because the new Prime Minister of UK, I think he is
crazy.
I didn't use that word. You did.
Let's face it. I'm just going to call it what it is.
But he went on a ticket of by hook or by crook. Okay. Now, and knowing him, he will follow through. He's not the person who, you turn here, you turn there. No, he will follow through. So, in event it doesn't happen, everybody in the whole thing will have to think. Because, for example, like for us, we usually, when we import stuff to Europe, right, sometimes we go through UK, right? But what happens if there is a hard Brexit?
And then there's a hard border, everything is...
So,
but I can counter-argue. Perhaps now we can strike a direct free trade agreement with the UK straight up.
True, of course. But then the thing is, we buy BMWs and Mercedes. We don't buy...
Wow. Aston Martins?
Only a select few.
But I see. Generally speaking, there is a whole rethinking on how we do things. And this rethinking has to be executed this year.
This year, yes. So
it's no longer a hypothetical conversation.
I won't be surprised now in MOF, in the PMO's department, in Bank Negara. They have all their teams doing all kinds of scenario testing now, looking at what are the best if this happens. I think it's given. They should. In fact, if they've not done it, they should do it. They should start looking at it. But I think they have already done it. I was from Bank Negara. I suspect they already have got all their plan A up to plan Z. How they sorted out. So, but we have to wait and see. We have to let the whole thing flow. We have to let the whole thing comes out and see how it goes. Because for every action, there's a reaction. So sometimes we don't need to act first. We just let them.
Let things pan out.
Let things pan out.
We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll conclude our conversation with Meor Amri of the Bond Pricing Agency Malaysia. Don't go anywhere. Thanks for staying on with us. You're watching Notepad. I'm with Meor Amri of the Bond Pricing Agency Malaysia. Meor, the bond situation and the sukuk market right now in Malaysia, as you say, is going through a lot of consideration, but we're talking still about institutional investors in the country. There are a lot of, talks on how institutional investors need to diversify their investments out of fixed income, out of even this country, and try to invest in some other countries. There are a lot of conversation on how fund flows are going to go out in order to seek for higher returns. Okay. On one hand, I mean, my money goes into EPF every month, right? And it's a considerable amount. I want greater returns.
Of course.
But on the other hand, if I'm thinking as a collective, as a Malaysian, I want them to continue to invest locally and pump capital into Malaysia. What's the story and what's your view on this?
Okay. If you look at investment, for me, real investment is not short term. Real investment is medium term, long term kind of time horizon that we look at. Because if you talk about short term, I want a quick buck. I want to have the best returns now. Yes, you can do it, but the risk is also very high, right? You can have a very high returns today, but tomorrow, you can't guarantee. So, like for me, I believe in the idea of investing into the future. That means you investing into a business or industry that you will know have at least 20, 30, 50 years of future growth prospects. Those are sort of things that you need to do. So, in that sense, actually in Malaysia, we do have a lot of industries that are still within that scope, that time scope. So, and if you look at both of us, right, when can we access the money of EPF anyway? Not next year, not the year after next, but you're looking at maybe another decade or so, right? So never mind. I think, yes, you are right. I personally also feel it is very important that these investment entities like EPF and all that, but this is my personal view, it's not BPA's view, but personal, would really seriously look at some of the hidden gems in Malaysia, because there are tons of hidden gems, a lot that we don't know, right?
Most are privately held.
Yeah, most are privately held. Because if you look at, because when we look at the issuers in the Malaysian bond market, the assumption has always been that, those who actually tap the bond market are also listed.
No.
Oh, no.
Dangerous
these are
assumptions to make.
They are Sendirian Berhad, strictly held entities that issue bonds. Because they say that, I don't think, it's okay, I don't need to have capital to the equity market. I just need capital for this project and this project alone. And the best option is either I go for a bank loan or I issue bonds. Right? So, so you have, so I think there are a lot of hidden gems. So, but of course, our problem the situation now, I use the word situation, is the problem. The situation is that not a lot of information flows out.
Okay.
So we're not, we can't just Google and suddenly, yes, these are all the companies that's available. So this is something that's lacking. Not like in developed countries. Developed countries, the information framework is strong. You can do searches and all that. Here,
but then we have analysts, and most of these analysts stick to just looking at equities, stick to looking at bigger corporates within those board.
But I guess I guess the reason again is about information, because they can get information about these big public listed companies because it's available. You can download. Try to get some of this private. You have to go to SSM to get. So if you don't know the name,
that's it.
That's it. So you'll be like scratching your head. So
it's
I think
not easy.
So I guess this is where
is this a situation where corporates need to volunteer information, put themselves out there, get themselves out there,
organize something like industry forums, or get themselves organized into like associations. These are things that are important, because when you have that, then people will start to be able to get information. People start to know who to ask. Currently, there's no one to ask. I mean, now if you ask me, the best entity to ask is MIDA. because my dad should know because they issued license and all. Yeah? So you can ask, hey guys, can you tell me or can you help introduce? Yeah. So yeah.
That's an interesting point of view because I've never looked at it that way.
Yeah, you know. So information is very key. This is why BPA is we focus on providing as much information as possible. You know, I used to tell it to my staff that we're like arms dealer. We provide the ammunition. We don't do the fighting. You guys, based on information, you decide what you want to do with it. So that's what information is. I think it's the new black gold, the new dinar, whatever you want to call it. But information. Yeah,
that's a nice way of closing this conversation. That was my conversation with Meor Amri, the CEO of Bond Pricing Agency Malaysia, or BPAM, as you know it. And if you missed any part of this interview, or you want to watch more interviews such as this, just head on to AstroAwani.com, look for Notepad. Also, you can watch this interview and stream it straight from your mobile devices. Download the AstroAwani app, wherever you get your app. Until then, thanks very much for watching and goodbye.
Okay, thank you.
All right,
thank you.
Thank you very much.